What's good, everyone? It's your boy Nazi with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone. And of course, we got Abdullah here, co-host. Um, so Abdullah's gonna be here for the first 10 minutes-ish of the stream before my cousin hops on. We're gonna talk about Tom Brady. So Tim Sports Talk is the first one in the chat saying fake news. I don't think it's fake news. I know there's like a bunch of reporting saying that Tom Brady hasn't officially made the decision, but I trust Adam Schefter and Jeff Darlington's reporting, and I think he will eventually officially say that he is retired from the NFL by the end of this week, or I should say by the end of next week, or within the next couple of weeks, I should say. Dula did jump off. I'm not sure what went on, but he ain't done yet. I think he is. At least, so he might come back maybe in future seasons or for future seasons, I should say. But I don't think he's coming back this offseason. I think he's retiring. Okay, Abdullah's back on.
Sorry about that. I don't know what's happening
It's all,
today. Brady's doing this and my computer's acting up.
it's all good. What are your thoughts? I'm gonna let you speak because first 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, we all know right now it's undisputed. He is the GOAT, and he really doesn't have anything else to prove. I mean, leading the league in passing yards at the age of 44, that's just insane. I I don't know if he's pulling an MJ. I don't know. I really think he's retiring. Maybe his team's making a video for his Instagram page and he wants to post it. Who knows? But I mean, watching this guy play, going to I think was it 10 Super Bowls he went to or 11? Am I right? Or
10.
10?
10.
It's
10 out of 20.
I
Yeah,
would go
go ahead.
insane if our franchise made it to 1. Imagine a single player going to 10. Like, it's just so common for him. And the hate that this man faced, just time and time again, proving the haters wrong. What a career, man.
And it might have been 11 actually. I think the tweet was 10 out of the first 20 seasons, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
I might be wrong on that, but yeah, either 10 or 11. It doesn't really matter. Like that's a that's a lot of Super Bowl appearances and 7 Super Bowl wins. So I mean that winning percentage is very high. Yeah, I'm just looking through like tweets right now, trying to see if there are any more updates. But personally, I just think with all the stuff that went down today, I think he's gonna retire. I think he's gonna retire. Who knows though? I said this. Who knows? He might come back like in future seasons, but at least for this offseason, I think he's retiring. And for the 2022 season, we might not see Tom Brady. Let's talk about like what Tom Brady meant to you, Abdul. Like in your lifetime of being a fan of the NFL, like what has he meant to you?
Man, just an inspiration. An underdog. What was it? A 6th round pick 199, 1999 draft. Just like seeing that you don't have to be the first overall pick or a first round pick to exceed in the NFL, and he exceeded expectations. And that was also inspiring kids in the classroom like me, or going out there and in sports, just being that underdog and just proving everybody wrong. Has been a real inspiration for every single kid that just knows Tom Brady. He's made a big impact on their lives.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's been playing for 22 years. Gonna turn 22 in a couple of months. I mean, he's been playing really my entire life, which is just crazy to think of. Like when I was in diapers, from when I was in diapers to now when I'm about to graduate from college. Like that's how I'm processing all of this. It's kind of insane. But no, it's gonna be really weird to not have Tom Brady, not just in the NFL, not just playing football, but also in sports in general. Like it's gonna feel really, really weird not saying number 12 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or for the New England Patriots for the first 20 years out there on the field. So whether this is the official announcement of the retirement or it's gonna come in a couple of weeks, this is our reaction to it. And yeah, it's crazy, man. Like we were literally talking about like Tom Brady and like elementary, middle school, like, and now we're talking about him like in college. It's just crazy, just crazy. The other thing I want to say, and this was one of my first tweets after the news was made. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, my favorite NFL player of all time. Philip Rivers, Big Ben, the same offseason. Like Aaron Rodgers pending, man. Maybe next offseason, maybe a couple off seasons from now, or maybe even this offseason. Who knows? Like that's crazy, man. Like all the childhood quarterbacks, all the legendary childhood quarterbacks they're retiring, right? And like now, let me ask you this: who do you think among the new breed of quarterbacks is going to be the guy outside of Mahomes. Okay, because I think Mahomes is like the obvious answer for a lot of people, but outside of Mahomes.
I mean, Josh Allen. We saw the battle. It's got to be Josh Allen. And, I really think those two are going to take the league by storm. It's sad to see these guys go, but eventually it was going to happen. But, to fill that void, it will be a tough task for them. But that playoff game was insane. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, people in the chat, people watching, like I've been a big Josh Allen fan for many years. Even when I think it was the second year where he, had a good year, but like a lot of people were still doubting him because he was overthrowing guys, and it was all talent at that point, right? It was all raw talent, a little less skill. But no, I've been a big fan of him. I think he's next up as well. It's going to be him, Patrick Mahomes. That could be that Brady Manning rivalry that I grew up with. I know you grew up with as well. And looking forward to that. You can't forget about Lamar Jackson as well. He won an MVP. Like a lot of people forget that. He did win an MVP like in 2019. Wasn't that long ago. And Baltimore Ravens should be back next year. Lamar Jackson should be back next year, fully healthy. So I'm looking forward to that. You also have other guys as well in the AFC. You have a Joe Burrow who's in the AFC Championship game. We didn't even talk about he's in the AFC. Out of all those guys, he's the one that's still playing. Right outside of Mahomes. So, man. But yeah, I mean, I guess who out of the remaining guys though? I guess like, do you think anybody has like that championship mentality that Brady has, or like, let me just not say championship mentality, but that like killer instinct that like you could see push that player to multiple championships down the line?
I mean, I don't want to be obvious and say Mahomes, but I feel like, and don't get me wrong, Justin Herbert could be that guy if he gets the right team around him. I know like that's a big if. And Joe Burrow, second year coming off that terrible injury, it's been crazy. But I think Justin Herbert could be that guy. But again, it's Brady. Like comparing a quarterback to Brady, a huge comparison.
Yeah. How long do you think Aaron Rodgers has before he retires?
Honestly, dude, if I was Aaron Rodgers, I'd just go to Tampa and win them another championship. But I'm gonna say
Tampa the
I'm gonna
money?
say 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years.
2-3 years?
2 to 3 years. Yeah.
Man,
He just won MVP, or he should win MVP.
yeah. Do you think he's gonna win MVP over Tom Brady? Or
Now here's the thing: if Brady retires, I don't know if the NFL is gonna be like, yeah, he's the GOAT. Let's just give him the MVP. So I still think Rodgers deserves it, even though he lost in the divisional round. So we'll see.
Yeah. So we got my cousin coming on. Abdullah, thank you for giving your thoughts on this news, this possible retirement from Tom Brady. But my cousin Sami is about to come on.
And I just wanted to say, make sure to follow us on TikTok, DMV Sports Zone. A lot of updates on there. It's been pretty fun. We're at 300 followers and it's been growing. So thanks again, Nadi.
Sure. No problem.
Take care, man.
All right, Sami, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm kind of perplexed by this Tom Brady retirement possibility / formality type of thing that's going on right now. But I guess we could talk about the Tom Brady news after you introduce yourself to the channel. Because obviously people haven't seen you on before. So go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Samson. I'm Nati's cousin. 32 years old, guys. So I've been a DC sports fan pretty much my entire life, but I got some other teams around the country that I like. But yeah, pretty much all around sports fan, DC sports fan, especially all types of sports. So, but football is my main bread and butter, but I keep my eyes and ears attentive to all sports around the world. So yeah, that's pretty much my intro. You want to add any more sauce to that?
No, I mean, I think you covered everything. But I do, of course, want to first ask you your thoughts on the Tom Brady news. Again, I'm going to leave it as possible retirement right now or incoming retirement for Tom Brady. Thoughts on what Tom Brady has meant to the NFL, what he's meant to you, and thoughts on him just leaving the league altogether.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously being a sports fan all my life and football fan, I can't say I really attentively started watching football until probably like the 98, 99 season. My first kind of like recollections was John Elway and those Greatest Show on Turf Rams. And so seeing Brady and go through that season in 01 or 2000 with the tuck rule and everything, like seeing that happen, you don't understand the magnitude of all of that really that's going to play out over the next 20 some odd years. And so obviously, like most fans that are not in that New England area, you're not really like liking it because, like, man, we all want some of that kind of shine and everything. And so to see them all the way in the Super Bowl every time and just finding some ways to pull it out is just, as a fan of not the Patriots, it sucks. But at some point, you kind of have to just appreciate the hustle and just like the kind of grind that Brady and then also the Patriots did, but obviously Brady showed it that he can go to the Buccaneers and do it in the first year, and under circumstances could have did it again this year. And so I equate it to Jordan, especially within the last couple of years, is that like again being age wise, like 98 is like I kind of saw the tail end of Jordan. So like I've lived through that moment, but never really kind of experienced it like what we're seeing with Tom Brady. And honestly, we're never going to see anybody win 7 Super Bowls, especially at the quarterback position like this. So, and then to go as what, like you said, 10 or 11 times, it's a unmatchable feat. I don't think we're going to see, but hey, things have been said crazier before. So, Tom Brady, I know a lot of Jets fans, so I hear a lot of their pain a lot. I used to live in Boston for a couple of years, especially that year when they came back against the Falcons. So being around that area when they're winning their Super Bowls also obviously sucked as well. But you gotta give him props at the end of the day. Like, dude's a legend.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he entered the league when I was a baby pretty much, and I'm about to graduate from college and he's retiring. So he's been playing for 22 years, pretty much my entire life, and it's crazy. I grew up, you might remember this, Sami, but I grew up a huge Peyton Manning fan, and obviously because of that rivalry between Manning and Brady, naturally I had to hate Brady, but over the years, especially once he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I started to appreciate him more. And just him winning that Super Bowl first year in Tampa Bay, COVID shortened offseason and all that, and he still ended up winning. I mean, it just shows you his greatness. And the next question I want to ask you is, do you think he's going to go out on top in the sense that he's going to win MVP potentially, even over guys like Aaron Rodgers?
MVP, I don't know. It's hard to say. Especially now that they kind of moved in. I think it used to be earlier, but I think now that they moved it to the end of the season, I don't know how much the offseason, like postseason stuff kind of plays into play. Obviously he's always going to be in contention for that, but there's also Josh Allen and some of these other guys that kind of make cases for themselves. And sometimes you might run into a LeBron situation, where you just don't want to give it to another guy, but storylines could play out. It could be a fitting exit with an MVP kind of going out. And if he stays in and doesn't retire, as reports kind of are coming out within the last few minutes, like me and my friends have been kind of conversing that one of my thoughts is San Francisco is an interesting destination as just kind of being a mercenary kind of quarterback, like especially if this is going to be your last run. He's from the Bay Area. He's a big Montana fan. Just kind of like, hey, let me get my house settled there, my final house. We move all the kids out there, and this will be the last hurrah with the team like that.
You think the 49ers are willing to do that after trading up all those picks to get Trey Lance at number 3 overall last year? You think they're willing to get a 44-year-old, 45-year-old Tom Brady in town after all that?
I think if anything, these playoffs have shown everyone in the NFL is that you need a quarterback. And, we'll see tomorrow with that game with the Rams and the 49ers. But, how much faith do they have on Jimmy? Like, they can say it, but would you rather have Jimmy or Tom back there?
Yeah.
Is Tom Brady missing Emmanuel Sanders? Is he missing Brandon Ayuk?
Yeah.
On those passes, so.
I get that. Tim and Jarrett Sports Talk in the chat. This dude in the Skins hoodie looks like a position coordinator. That's how Jarrett is greeting you. But okay, so we got through the Tom Brady stuff, but obviously this is Washington football. weekly. So I want to get into the Washington football team, and I'll preface this discussion, guys, by saying Sami is where, especially growing up, I got a lot of my knowledge about this team from. So he's gonna know a lot, and he's gonna give some great insight. And with that, let's get started with the 30th anniversary of the Washington Redskins at the time, 1991 Super Bowl win. What are your thoughts on the 30th anniversary, 30 years since that moment? And do you believe it was the greatest team of all time?
Yeah, so January 26, 1992, I was celebrating my second day on Earth as a 2-year-old. So, as far as recollections of that day, obviously don't have many, but you can argue that it was the start of the Redskins fandom that has, gone on for the rest of my life. On that day, I took the time to kind of go back and watch the Americas game that released for them, as well as finding their 1991 yearbook that went over their season with a lot of archival footage that was there. And, it's, again, as someone that has kind of lived through the generation post that Super Bowl win, it's kind of bittersweet. And, you kind of see all the glory days. You see, the happiness of everyone in the city and, the actual like raucousness of the stadium and actually having a home field advantage. And we were actually something to be feared of back in those days. And, I was watching one of those highlights there, the yearbook, and they got up to the Cowboys game. And I believe we lost that game off of like last second kind of stuff. But I was like, yeah, it sucks we lost to the Cowboys, but who am I to be mad if we're 10-1? We lost to the Eagles and the Cowboys that year, but if like you're 14-2 and you kind of just go onslaught in the playoffs, defeating the Falcons and the Lions like you did, and then going into Minnesota and beating the Buffalo Bills that you did, it's something that like that's why we're sports fans. That's why we kind of put ourselves through this kind of pain, because we know one day we're gonna hopefully see that. But it's interesting that with the Bengals getting to the Super Bowl, to the AFC Championship, that both Detroit and Washington are now the longest tenured teams not being in a conference championship. And that just so happens to be the conference championship game that we played back in 1992. So, kind of bittersweet,
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, 30 years since the Super Bowl win. We always, and by we, I mean NFL fans that are not Cowboys fans, of course, always clown the Cowboys for not having won a Super Bowl since 1995, 1996. And while that blame is definitely deserved, right? Especially with them being America's team and all the expectations that come with that. It's just crazy because we haven't won a Super Bowl in even more years than that, right? Like, I don't know. Do you attribute this lack of success entirely on Dan Snyder and how he's run things, or I forgot where I saw this, but someone mentioned, the division also being stacked over the last 25 years being a huge contributor to our lack of success in the division and ultimately, of course, in the playoffs as well. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
There's a lot of factors that go into it, obviously, with any kind of team sports. I do lay a lot of the blame on Daniel Snyder, just because you kind of set the foundation and the culture. And especially from the Snyder era, obviously that's what I've pretty much known. It seems there's a lot of bark, but not a lot of bite. A lot of talking that happens from a lot of players and a lot of well-known superstar players. Clinton Portis, Trent Williams, Chase Young. Like, you can go throughout all the years. Pressure no diamonds. Like, a lot of talk. But then when it's time to actually put up, like, it never really equates. And so you wonder if everyone is actually playing together. Some of the things that bother me this past season, just kind of like Landon Collins making the switch to linebacker so late. I'm like, that's kind of stubborn. You kind of laughed off the idea back in March, like, come on now, like, but that's when you started playing your best ball. And so it's about, does everybody really want to give to the team? Or do we have some kind of, other objectives that we're trying to pull for? That's where I'm kind of like, I don't know. You look at sometimes like organizations like the Steelers, like Tomlin has never had a losing season.
Yeah.
And you can say he's had Roethlisberger, but then there are seasons where Roethlisberger was hurt. And he went through the same kind of issues with playing Mason Rudolph and other quarterbacks throughout the season, and still ended up 8-8. I said it this season when they were like 5-1. I was like, hey, they got these remaining games left, and if everything plays out, they could end up with a 500 record and still not be not having a losing season. And so I think I don't want to jump ahead in the conversation. I think there are some elements to be kind of encouraged about. I think I have maybe a little bit more patience than some people do, but yeah, like there's something to say about how you run your franchise and some of the kind of consistent threads that have been seen around the last 20 years.
Okay. So, of course, we have the name reveal on Wednesday, 2/2/22, that the organization, Ron Rivera, Jason Wright, all of them have loved to tout over the last month. Do you have any thoughts on the name options that are out there right now? Commanders, Admirals, Red Tails. Like, do you have a personal favorite, and do you have a name that you think the team will ultimately go with come Wednesday?
Yeah. Personally, I've said this for the longest time. I don't care what we're called. Like personally, like as long as I'm a DC sports team fan, so as long as the team's based in Washington DC, I'm all cool with that. The problem I will have is if they've moved. That would be the biggest problem I would have. As far as names, like yeah, you can call us whatever. Like I can understand like certain preferences or whatnot. Um, as far as the names that have been available, as far as commanders, admirals, I don't mind them. Like I can understand it. I don't think the military nicknames kind of tie to the DC area as much as people think. Because I mean, I think it's more of just the military, but DC is more than just the military. There's a lot of culture around here that it's not military, you know. So that's one thing that kind of sticks them out with me with the commanders and admirals type stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, do you think because of Ron Rivera, Jason Wright, all these outsiders coming into the organization and sort of like bringing their sort of perceptions of what the DC area is, do you think that's why they're sort of pushing, especially Ron Rivera is pushing that military theme, or do you think there is some source of support among the fan base, and that's why that push is coming for the military theme name?
Yeah, I mean, I come from an advertising background. So if I had to put like my advertising branding kind of background, I would say that from a branding and marketing perspective, the military is much more of a, thing that DC has recognized. As much as we can talk about go-go music and Ben's Chili Bowl and, all that stuff and the things that, make us feel iconic about DC, like I think the general thing that people think about DC is, unfortunately, as being locals around here, it's, the politics, it's the White House, it's Congress and the Pentagon and stuff like that. So, as far as a branding and recognition, as far as like, again, this is a global franchise, this is a global entity. The military kind of comes with that. And I think, with Ron Rivera's background, it seems like it's a kind of easy thing to kind of jump on. But I think from a, marketing standpoint, I think that's something that a general audience could understand how it relates to our city.
Fair. I will say though, I know you don't really care, but I was pissed that we could not go with Red Bulls because I, like a lot of fans out there, thought that was the best name option available. Could keep the ACTR, everybody howling in the stadium after a touchdown, or you got the Wolf Den name as well, like on defense. There's just a lot of things you could do with it, but
I don't even think there's any wolves in the NFL as mascots either. That'd be a unique animal to throw in there.
Red Wolf
that was one of my favorites as well. When Fred Smoot said, I was like, that howling in the stadium on a Monday night, hopefully we're good. Like that would be kind of dope. But I mean, litigation and stuff like that. Again, like I obviously have never been through something to that extreme of trying to like name an entire franchise, but just understanding some of the branding challenges that you have to go through and the legal stuff. Like I can understand, the copyright stuff that kind of goes with it.
Okay. So moving off of the Tom Brady situation. So we're going to get into the 2021 season and how it played out in DC. The first question I want to ask you, Sami, is did you think that Taylor Heineke, with what he showed you on the field for the 2021 season, showed you enough to stick around this team for the foreseeable future?
Yeah. And I say that with some hesitancy just because, like, has he shown that he could be a quarterback in the NFL? Yes, I think so. Has he shown that can he be the one of the 32 starting? I don't think so. I'm not on board for Heineke round 2 next year. I think he is someone that can come in as a spot starter, someone if, just in case an injury or something like that, but an entire season, maybe with another year of actually like getting the snaps, because again, there's always some kind of things like, oh, like in the training camp, he was fighting with snaps for Fitzpatrick. He was getting all the first Fitzpatrick was getting all the first snaps. So it's like, oh, what if we give him all the first string snaps now? It's like, do you really expect anything different? Like at some point, it's like if we added another receiver, if we added Calvin Ridley or something, like, is he really gonna bring any more out of it? Maybe so, maybe not. Like, I'm always down to be proven wrong. I just can't go in with a lot of the same mistakes. One of the games that really bugged me was the first Dallas game at home, and it just
Yeah.
felt like he was kind of really just playing to like the Cowboys aura rather than just like the team that they are. It's like you kind of got, oh, this is the Dallas Cowboys, and it's like,
Yeah.
who care? Like, just play them like they're any other team. And again, all that comes with experience, but I think we needed something a little bit more consistent. It's too much of a roller coaster.
I agree with you. I think he's definitely like the guy that he replaced. He's definitely a Ryan Fitzpatrick type, a guy that will give you some spot starts, but you can't trust him to win you games over the course of an entire NFL season. I thought his best game this year was the Panthers game, I believe, where he had 206 yards and 3 touchdowns. But he was throwing the ball, it was just going through the air, man. It was very, very crisp passes. And I remember that one touchdown pass to Cam Sims, I believe, in the end zone. That was like in a very tight window. And he just showed out in that game. But for most of the season, his noodle arm was on full display. And ultimately, it's what's putting us in the situation that we're in now, trying to look for an established NFL quarterback or potentially a rookie that could come in and actually help us win games and actually have a NFL quality arm. But moving on from Taylor Heineke, of course, we had 2 playmakers on offense, Antonio Gibson and Scary Terry McLaurin, going over 1,000 yards each. What are your thoughts on the seasons that they had this year, and also what do you expect out of them come 2022?
Man, Terry, that guy is a beast. Third rounder, just to come out every year, just the way he has, and just kind of just like lunch kind of guy, just kind of comes in and does the work, and doesn't really complain. Like, he has all the right to complain. As many quarterbacks as he's had throwing him the ball in the last 3 years of his career, like, can you imagine some type of consistency and somebody to actually like get him the ball like that? And so Terry is. I was saying it last year as much as like we obviously want to upgrade our receiving core, like, and Allen Robinson was like the top guy coming out. Even Amari Cooper, I think we were trying to go after, and 18 mil was like the number for receivers. And I was like, yeah, that would be nice, but honestly, like, I like what we got in Terry, and if we could have last year, I'd rather had signed him into an extension last year because he deserved it. So the fact that he did it again this year, and I'm gonna repeat myself like I said last year. Pay that man 18. Pay him top of the line receiver money. I don't care if people think that he's not.
You think he's gonna stay here though on an 18 per year contract, or you think he's not Devontae Adams. Of course, he's not Devontae Adams, but a guy like Devontae Adams is asking for 30 million. Amari Cooper got what, 21 million from the Cowboys. Do you think Terry's gonna be asking for less than what Amari Cooper's gotten?
I mean, I'm not going to get into numbers because I haven't really kind of done my due diligence on that. But I mean, Devontae getting the ball thrown to him by Aaron Rodgers. Like, they're getting thrown to them by good quarterbacks. So, like, again, it's going to be where the leverage he doesn't have, where it's like he's going to have to play projection. It's like, well, if you supplied me with a good quarterback, maybe I could do something along those lines. But we haven't. So it's going to be, I don't know about the numbers. Again, like, it's a business at the end of the day. And, I'm not going to knock a player for, going to a better opportunity to, win a championship. So, we'll see. But that's one guy we got to get done. Like, I would be very heartbroken if Terry McLaurin is not a Washington football team member after his 4th year. And then, getting into Antonio Gibson. Yeah, I had big expectations coming into the season. I was a little perplexed by the fan community audience in the offseason, just about like putting all the weight on his shoulders as far as being the dual threat of like receiving and running back, just for the fact that like I understand he has some of that experience in college, but I'm like, JD McKissick still at 80 catches. Like
Yeah,
you just
second.
don't throw it. Like you just don't
That's
throw that away. Like you have tools. Like it's an 11 people are starting, but you can play as many guys as you want. So if you have the talent, why just drop away 80 catches from a guy? And so I mean, if JD McKissick still was healthy, let's see. I wonder how much he could have added to the season possibly. But yeah, AG. I was glad that he got to 1,000. Wasn't sure he was going to get it just from the season totals that he was kind of producing, but he had that big game at the end of the year. Obviously, the biggest thing with AG is those fumbles, and he's got to go look at another rival in the past rival in Tiki Barber and learn how to tuck that ball in. I mean, I know one of the things that I always look out for running backs coming out of college is whenever they hit the sidelines, depending with whatever is the left or the right, it's seeing them be able to transition that ball over from the right hand to the left hand if they're on the left sideline, just for that extra precaution. Use the sideline as your balance. And if you go back and look a lot of the tape or I don't want to say tape like I'm watching all 22, but any highlights or anything like that on AG running into the left or right sidelines, the ball is always on the inside of the field and it needs to be on that outside arm. So not only tucking it high and tight, but you got to know when to transition and use that sideline to protect it.
Pro tip. No, I mean, there isn't really too much more to add there. Scary Terry, I mean, he's my favorite player. He just balls. He just balls. No matter the quarterback, he just balls. And like you, I would be heartbroken if he's no longer here in DC. Antonio Gibson, though, I'm not gonna lie with you, Sami. I was frustrated for much of the season. That fumbling issue. It wasn't just that he was fumbling, right? Every single time that he fumbled the ball, it was always on Washington's side of the field. So once he fumbled the ball, the defense or the offense that was going to come on the field, the opposing offense, had a short field, and that ultimately resulted in points every single time. So it's for Antonio Gibson, it's not just about him fumbling the ball, but it's also where on the field he's fumbling the ball. And I think using the pro tip that you gave or that you referenced from Tiki Barber and stuff, like I hope he learns it quick, because I do not want Antonio Gibson to turn out into another third-round pick who had all the potential in the world, and fumbling issues ultimately, prevented him from having a long career in DC. And I'm referencing Matt Jones here. But moving on from the running back, wide receiver, studs that we have on our team, Jonathan Allen. Sami, I don't know if you know this. Last offseason, I was one of Jonathan Allen's chief defenders on the Washington football team podcast streets. I cannot tell you the number of people who went on YouTube, went on whatever platform they had, and said that Jonathan Allen was supposed to be the odd man out. He was supposed to be the one that had to be traded because, obviously we have a collection of first-round picks on the offensive line. Not everyone, or defensive line, not everyone could get paid. And I was always the one who said, if you're going to trade someone, maybe trade a Deron Payne or maybe a Matt Ioannidis, but don't trade Jonathan Allen. I'm telling you, last year, super underrated season. I'm referencing 2020 here, and was one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league. Then had a huge season this year. What are your thoughts on him having the quote unquote breakout season this year and really balling out?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I'm a big John Allen fan. I think he and Terry McLaurin are made of the same cloth. I think those two guys are the real leaders of this team. Again, going back to my earlier point about some of the issues with this team, there's a lot of bark and no bite. Chase Young, a lot of bark, no bite this year. So, again, that was one thing that was I wasn't sure entirely coming in of how well this defensive line was going to play. Are they really going to live up to expectations? And some of those things is just yeah, you got some adversity. You bring it on yourselves. You talk a lot of game, but sometimes you got to show out. And sometimes the talking, all that we're dog stuff, doesn't really hit. And John Allen, Terry McLaurin, again, maybe that's just me. That's just kind of guy I am. I'm just kind of soft spoken. And so I like to approach my game like them, so maybe that's my bias, kind of leaning towards that. But yeah, it's lunch pail. He's a D tackle. He's not supposed to get these many sacks and stuff like that, or like pressures. Like everyone is expecting him to be like Aaron Donald, and is like, what did he have? Like about 9 sacks this year, 8, something around those lines. So
9.5. Yep.
9.5 sacks. And so like that's impressive for a defensive tackle. And then to also get all the pressures and some of the stats don't even count. That I got a love for John Allen. He's someone like again on the defensive side, he's a Terry McLaurin, and you got to keep him there. And in my opinion, like guys like Montez Sweat, Matt Ioannidis, I think those are more of your tradable assets on the D line.
I agree with you. Correction, 9 sacks, but even then, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Still, a lot of the dirty work that you don't see kind of come on the stats. It's like, no, you watch it, and the way he occupies double teams and things of that nature is like, you need a guy like John Allen. I like him a lot.
Yep.
Local guy too. Again, probably adds to my bias.
Yeah. Teddy McGill here saying Tom has not retired yet. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of conflicting reports right now. The original report, though, from Jeff Darlington and Adam Schefter was that he is going to retire or has retired. So I think we should continue with that until being told otherwise. Dave in DC, question here: do you want another wideout if Curtis Samuel is healthy? We are paying him a lot of our cap space. I mean, you've probably heard all the fan chatter throughout the season of Curtis Samuel, getting paid, what was it, 11, 12, $13 million this year and not really putting much out there on the field, albeit injured. Thoughts on Curtis Samuel? Do you think we need another receiver, even with him being healthy, potentially next year?
Yeah, Curtis Samuel's obviously his disappointment. I will say that like during the offseason when all those reports about his groin injury and just having it kind of being an extended kind of thing, I didn't put too much stock into it. I'm like, hey, like, let's just let it play out. And, as soon as I was more of like, once the season starts, that's when we kind of start worrying. And obviously it played into the season. We had our trainer kind of get caught up with DEA stuff. And that was the same week with the Falcon stuff. And so he played more snaps and then re-injured it. It's disappointing. Obviously, there's certain moments, like very small moments, in which Curtis Samuels did play, which you saw the burst and the ability that he could possibly introduce into this offense. It's a little hard to kind of, count on that, but hey, you're paying that money, so obviously he's going to be somewhat a focus into your offseason plan, into your plans next season. As far as needing a receiver, I think. Looking around this postseason, I think has obviously shifted some of my perspective on just some of the talent that you just kind of need to have. You can't have it all on Terry. You got to hope Curtis, comes out, but, you're also relying on rookies. And so I definitely do think receiver is an interesting outlook into the offseason for them, whether it be primarily probably through free agency. I just wonder where is the range that you're getting at. Like, I don't think you're in the market for Devontae Adams, but maybe is there a Calvin Ridley? Like, I don't know about that. Like, I'm not sure who's available as far as the second tier market available is right now. I haven't done my due diligence on that yet, kind of in playoff mode, but I would say like if you could find a good second tier receiver, maybe Mike Williams, depending on what he's possibly asking. Like, I know he's possibly going to be a free agent. Go ahead.
Do you think, Sami, that I'm in Chicago right now. Do you think a guy like Allen Robinson might be a little too expensive for the Washington football team or whatever they're called to potentially sign this offseason?
Again, it depends on what you do on the quarterbacks. That's the thing too. Before you get a receiver, it's like, what are you getting a receiver for? Like, are you getting him to like add to your weapon slots? Like when Tom Brady came to Tampa, it's like, oh, you had Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and then you were just to add a bunch of other players to make it more plentiful for him? Or is this a person that's supposed to actually like mean something to your offense, like for the long term? So like, I don't know, like quarterback is obviously before anything is the biggest thing that kind of needs to get figured out. And I think that will kind of give us the roadmap for what the offseason would look like for the rest of the moves.
Okay. We'll talk about the quarterback position after getting into your favorite part about the 2021 season and your least favorite part about the season. And you can talk about a specific game, player performance, stretch of the season. It's up to you.
I struggle thinking about my favorite part. I really don't have one, honestly. I mean, if I had to pick one, it'd probably be the 17 play drive against Tampa to ice it, because like you had to. You like not only did you like not only was it impressive to go on a 17 play, but I think they were down to like a 4th and 1 situation, or they were down to like a 4th down situation where it's like if you kick the field goal, you're giving Brady clock. If you go for it, you're icing this game, and that's the decision that you needed to make, and they converted it. And you made it much harder for Brady pretty much impossible for Brady to win that game at that point. And obviously, the weeks afterwards, we saw what Brady did and what Brady can do in the playoffs as well. So, I mean, I guess that would be the favorite part. Because again, it came off the bye. I think the Bucks were also coming off a bye, so like not much expectations to like even win that game, especially coming off like a 4-game losing streak. So, that'd be the favorite part. As sad it probably was, but the worst part, it's obvious. The Dallas game, the second one, like that's just hilarious. That's just hilarious of a game. Like that's just shameful. There's nothing much for me to even say about that. That's just shameful.
And Sami, we had people out here blaming that entire performance on COVID and injuries. And that you can't you just can't go out there and put up the type of performance that we put up against Dallas in that second matchup. Even in the first matchup, it was a blowout until late in the game.
Yeah.
Right. Until Dak made that. I mean, I don't know what that was, but that interception at the end of the game, Cole Holcomb pick 6. I mean, that was a blowout for much of the game. So we did not play well against Dallas this year. So I guess like that's my least favorite part. Like, not really putting up too much of a fight against the Dallas Cowboys this year.
I mean, you could put that whole 4-game, that whole division stretch at the end of it. I mean, just because we came off of like that high of like, oh, we have our destiny in our hands, and then COVID hits us, and then all of that. But that Dallas game, especially that second one, was just the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I agree with you. And my favorite part, I would probably say it would have to be that Bucks game. Maybe not even just like the drive at the end, but obviously the drive is what contributed to the win. But Terry's clutch catch at the end of that game, he got shellacked, but he still held on to the ball. And also the post-game reaction, right? Ron Rivera had the whole like stone like throw-in thing. I think it started after that game. It was just great moment. I don't think anybody was expecting a W, especially at 2-6 at that point. And definitely helped us get to the 4-game winning streak right before we collapsed at the end of the season. But okay, so we talked about the 2021 season. We talked a little bit about wide receiver for the offseason, but let's get to the big elephant in the room that is the quarterback position, because as I've been saying for several weeks now, nothing else matters until we get a quarterback. So what do you think we should do at the quarterback position? Do you think we should potentially through free agency or via trade go after an Aaron Rodgers, who I made a video about a week ago, or potentially Virginia native Russell Wilson, who had his draft party in DC, Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr? Or do you think we should go the draft route of getting a guy like a Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis from Liberty, Matt Corral, Sam Howell, Carson Strong? Like, what are your thoughts on how we should resolve the quarterback position going into 2022?
Yeah, I think my preference, and I would say this as my A1 that I think for this team is Russell Wilson. I think just from the on-the-field aspect, I think he fits along the lines, just, obviously play style. They kind of seem like Taylor Heineke a little bit, but just obviously better.
An arm.
Arm, stuff like that. But from the off the field standpoint, branding aspect, like for a team transitioning to a new name and trying to get people on board, I think Russell Wilson also makes sense because if you know, like after every interview, this man says "Go Hawks."
Yeah.
And so whatever our name is, and you have someone of a Super Bowl champion caliber of this guy, always in the conversation of MVP, that can kind of kill two birds with one stone. You know, you get a great quarterback that could also help you with the brand transition. That'd be day one. Highly unlikely, highly doubtful, unless some kind of things kind of come into play. My second option would be Derek Carr. I think for a lot of similar reasons, I think he could also be a good brand guy off the field for carrying that name transition as well. I definitely like what he brings to the table. I think he gets a little bit too much slack for some of the issues that kind of go on with the Raiders.
A lot of issues this year.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he's a talented quarterback. And I don't want to put him on the level of Stafford, but like I think maybe a change of scenery, maybe with some, I'm not saying Scott Turner is Sean McVay here, but like, maybe in some kind of a different offensive scheme could possibly kind of bring something out of Derek Carr. Deshaun Watson, as talented as he is, and to my other 2 points about these guys of why they would be great, is the exact reason why it would be tough. Talent-wise, obviously he's an A1, but to go with that, again, we talk about February 2nd. I honestly not really interested in February 2nd because that's going to last for all of 24 hours until we get to February 3rd and we get to that congressional roundtable. So I'm more curious about that day when that day comes and see what comes out of that for the team to be named. But Deshaun Watson, do you really want to put your eggs in that basket again? I mean, obviously, like he's a talent, but you're not the team to be picking up that right now. So one of my wild cards that I've had in previous conversations with friends is Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield is an interesting guy. Like he's, inconsistent looking at his stats. I was listening to your last conversation with Street Scores, and he had mentioned that it was just like up and down each season. And, there's an argument to like, hey, like why hasn't he reached the expectations that we expect from him of a top overall pick? Especially with talent of like the offensive line they have, the running backs that they got, the receiving core that they got, and the defense. They're all made to be succeeding well. I believe that he was hurt this year and he was playing through injury, which I always said, if you're hurt, like, and you're hurting your team, like you got to be a man and not play it. You got to be like, yo, I'm doing more harm than helping us. But I do think that if Baker Mayfield is available this offseason, I think his coming off season will be a Carson Wentz-like season. And the question where, like, he'll go to a new team and we're going to answer that question finally. Are you that guy or are you not? But, like, you get one season next year. And if Baker Mayfield is probably, like, the C option at this point.
Yeah.
And so, like, that would be, like, kind of like a Fitzpatrick kind of thing. I think in most of these situations, it doesn't absolve you from taking a quarterback in the draft, especially at the first round, in the first round pick. I think if you take someone like Russell Wilson, doesn't mean you can't take Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral in the first round. Like, you could still run for Wilson for 3 years. You still got Heineke, and then Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral can battle it out and kind of groom themselves. Go ahead.
But Sami, we might not even have that first round pick though if we do trade for a guy like Russell Wilson or even a Deshaun Watson. So maybe we'd have to talk about a second round or a third round pick going to a quarterback, maybe a Desmond Ridder type.
Desmond Ridder, like Malik Willis, like I like him. Maybe not as an 11th overall. Again, haven't done a lot of my draft stuff. Got to do a lot of the due diligence on that. But like, I don't think it absolves you from taking a quarterback. I think with a quarterback, again, this playoffs is really just banging the hammer on the table, whatever the analogy that you want to make. You need a quarterback. You just got to take more darts and keep throwing them at the dartboard, whether it be in the first round, third round. Like Russell Wilson was a third, Kirk Cousins was a fourth, Tom Brady was a sixth, Lamar was picked at the 32nd pick in the first round. Like they come in everywhere. And, a lot of them is circumstances. I've always said that, like, if Aaron Rodgers fell to Washington in 2005, and instead of we getting Jason Campbell, like, would Aaron Rodgers be Aaron Rodgers? No, I don't think so. Like, I've talked to this about my friend with Josh Allen and the Jets. Like, If Josh Allen went to the Jets instead of, Sam Darnold, would Josh Allen be Josh Allen? Is he that good to carry them, or he's
See,
that good with the organization helping them? Like, is it all the kind of ocean and the motion that kind of like gets it together? It's a lot of factors that go into it.
See, Sami, you're talking to the wrong person because I've been a Josh Allen fan since pretty much day one. Like even when he was struggling his first year and a half, like you could always see the talent even coming out of Wyoming. Obviously, he was the 7th overall pick in the draft, so I mean, there was enough talent for him to be selected there. But like, even with all like the memes of him overthrowing guys like a few feet ahead of him and all that, like I was a huge believer in him. I'm sort of like on a Louis T sort of bandwagon with that, but like. I get what you're saying though. Like if you played for the Jets, we probably would not be talking about him as an MVP contender like he was the last couple of years. Or so
and it's not
like,
to dismiss any of his talents. It's to say that like he could be as talented as he is right now. It's just that whatever things that going on that organization could hamper it. Like we saw a bolt of that with RG3. But our organization just, and RG3 has a lot of blame for that as well, but like a bolt of that, and it was gone because we couldn't manage it. And so it goes to the point, like it's a crapshoot. It's one of those things though that you kind of just have to keep taking chances.
Okay. What should we do at linebacker? Because personally, I think it's our second biggest need, and I think there was a poll on Twitter a couple weeks ago, and the fans pretty much said that they believe that was the second biggest need on this team. What do you think we should do at linebacker? And I mean, Jamin Davis, first round pick last year. Do you think he's only going to improve upon what we saw last year, or he's pretty much just going to be, he's pretty much not going to be what we expected him to be as a first round pick?
I mean, Jamin Davis. Yeah, again, I have a little bit more patience. I can understand like rookie lumps, especially when you see a division rival like Micah Parsons just kind of just go off all the map like that and have is he an All-Pro? Probably an All-Pro type of season. And it just makes you question. I was like, oh, like why didn't we do this? And again, circumstances. I kind of just I feel I still have faith in him. I think there were still some things that were encouraging, on some coverage plays that I saw, and I think it's just finding what works well for him. You would hope that with defensive-minded coaches like Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio, that like it would come sooner rather than later. But I still got faith in Jamin. I think maybe Mike is not his role, and they talking about putting him on the outside. I'm fine with that. Like we're like linebacker wasn't a one position solve. So like the idea that like Jamin was going to solve the whole linebacking core by himself was a fallacy to begin with. Like we needed more than one linebacker, and depth included.
The issue though, Sami, is that all of us were saying that he should have been an outside linebacker early in the season, right? Like it took Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, the entire defensive coaching staff after the season to really realize that he was not a Mike linebacker. So that was, I guess, like the frustrating part of that postseason press conference that Ron Rivera had. But sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, like I get it. Like again, like there's I give a little too much credit or just try to be a little too understanding, but circumstances. I know, did John Bostic make the team, or was he hurt on IR?
He was on IR.
Yeah. He was on IR. So like, imagine if we had John Bostic. Like there's depth. Like we have to. That's why we re-signed David Mayo today, or the other day, because like we thought that hey, maybe we have that versatility that we can kind of switch them around, but sometimes it's just better to let somebody just sit at one position before kind of trying to mix them all and match. Like I think that's some of the issues that like Sua Cravens back in the day had, where it's like, hey, like we want to run him at safety, we also want him at linebacker. It's like, hey, just kind of like pick one and run with it. And if he's not a Mike, he's not a Mike. Like one linebacker wasn't going to solve it. It's not like we were a linebacker away. So I just go with adding more talent. I saw through some of the Bleacher Report things, I think for every free agent, Devondre Campbell on the Packers being an interesting target. I think he was on a 1-year deal, so he had a great season. I had him on fantasy as a backup to Seattle linebacker Bobby Wagner. But so like, hey, like that'd be interesting. I think like again, sometimes you just need to add more talent. Like, it's not always having just like one person just holding it down, but realizing that it's more than just 11 people on the field. It's a lot more than that. It could be as many as you have. So just getting talent.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And potentially, I know this is going against what you said earlier with getting a quarterback, even if we get one in free agency or via trade, but potentially we could get a veteran quarterback, maybe draft a N'Kobe Dean, right? A reigning champion, Georgia Bulldog, linebacker, number 11
Yeah.
overall. Maybe solve our linebacker situation that way. I mean, but Artie Rez is saying David finally playing in the right spot. David Mayo. So I mean, I guess David is an athletic freak, just a matter of time. It snaps at outside linebacker. See, I think they're trying to make him a backup middle linebacker, right, or backup Mike linebacker. I think that's why they re-signed him. But either way, we got to get that position in the middle solved before the 2022 season starts, because it's been a problem for us for several seasons now. But speaking of defense, we got someone you mentioned earlier, and I think we're going to agree a lot on this. But do you think what are your thoughts on Chase Young's injury shortened season, 1.5 sacks through 10 games? And do you think Chase Young will have a bounce back season next year?
I do think Chase Young is going to have a bounce back season. I'm still a little hesitant on like is that generational talent aspect of it, just because like it's always hard to be like, oh, this guy is going to be generational. You just kind of have to just like see it, And so that's just kind of like a wait and see approach. Maybe that's a cop out answer on my part, but I think he's going to have a bounce back season. I definitely do think that like it was a humbled season. Just for all the talk. Again, there's a lot of talk. Sometimes you just gotta put your head down and just do your job. And I think there's some positive into it. I'm not so much onto the sacks. Obviously, that's his job is to get sacks. But I do think within the game, like as long as you're also, doing your other responsibilities as well and not giving up big plays and other aspects of it, like, keeping things within your control, like maintaining your gaps, like holding the edges, making sure that like people don't get on outside stretch runs and whatnot. You could still be an impactful player. They're still double teaming him. So like, they're still occupying attention to him that like it's creating other opportunities for other guys. So to say that like he's not a talent to be recognized, I think that's just kind of like the casual eye kind of just like looking for the stats. And I think, if we were to look at fine detail, like obviously there's going to be issues even in like plays where he's not in the play. You could be like, oh, you could have did this better or whatnot. But the fact that he's an intention grabber on the offense and they have to spend all week thinking about this guy, and it may not seem like it when the game actually plays out, but the effort that is being called into trying to like, manage this guy is unlike other people that we've ever had on this team. So, hopefully, yeah, Chase Young, he comes back, ready, like, humbled and kind of just like, keep that hunger, just kind of, channel it, keep it. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling here, but keep it channeled and just attack.
Okay. Last question on the Washington football team, or Washington fill in the blanks. Do you still believe in the overall direction that this team is heading, under Ron Rivera? Obviously, you have Jack Del Rio, defensive coordinator, Scott Turner on the offensive side. And do you believe there's any hope for a playoff berth as soon as next season?
Yeah, I still got faith in the direction of this team. I do think Ron Rivera's the closest coach that we've had. Even just kind of looking back at those, kind of harking back to the early points in the conversation of the 91 team and just seeing Joe Gibbs on the sideline, I'm like, I see some Ron Rivera in that, like just as far as just like demeanor and just kind of like how he kind of gathers his men. I can see why Joe Gibbs was, a proponent to getting, Ron Rivera as a head coach for this team. And so I do have faith in Ron. I think it's part of the DC kind of territory of media of just having to just deal with just like everyone just nitpicking, on everything. I think some of the conversations that kind of go on are overboard, but again, I just kind of like let the play on the field kind of dictate it and kind of just go from there. I don't kind of mind myself with all the offseason talk of like the he said, she said, or the rumors and the gossip. It's like, I think Ron Rivera plays a little bit into that too much, and that's just kind of transitioning from a market like Carolina to a place like DC.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still got faith in this team. I think what this team has right now that is lacked for a long time is depth. And it might not seem it, but like there's depth on this team. And I think even with his draft classes, I haven't looked at the most recent PFF draft class rankings. I'm pretty sure they probably ranked it low.
Yeah.
But what did they rank it at? Do you know?
I don't know if it was PFF or Bleacher Report, but I saw us in like the 20s. So
Yeah,
it kind of gets
yeah, I figured, but it's 1 year, and again, it's just taking more stabs, adding talent, and just coaching up your players. Like I think, I hate to say it, like I think there is a quarterback away, but obviously getting a quarterback is hard, and so they got to be aggressive. Imagine if they did all go in for Stafford and Stafford was here. Like I think it's like that. I think that's where Washington's decision. It's like you're kind of in that LA Rams situation where it's like you had someone like Goff that's like
yeah.
maybe it's there kind of, but like he's not going to take that chance like Stafford did against the Bucks with 40 seconds left or however much, like 19 seconds left to Cooper Kupp. You're not going to like the cojones for Stafford to throw that bomb to Cooper Kupp in that situation. Is Jared Goff doing that?
No, sir.
So like that's like I think that's where the Rams were looking for and what they got in Stafford, and I think that's what we're kind of looking. I think there's opportunities on the field that we need somebody that has the arm, the vision, the understanding of what's happening on the field to get the ball where it needs to be.
Yeah, I like how you're crediting Matt Stafford because something as simple as that, man, it's lost among a couple of YouTubers in our community on the warpath. But no, I've been saying Matt Stafford, super talented quarterback. I'm just happy that we're seeing success this year. Once he's left that whole Detroit Lions situation, that was even bad for a guy like Barry Sanders, right? So, Jay Terry here, agreeing with you. Chase is going to be just fine. Just needs to put his head down, and hopefully no more workout videos on Instagram every other day.
Stop all that bark, man. All that like Trent Williams and all them guys coming in like dress shirts Fridays, like, and then you get whooped. Like, again, just come out and play. Like, that's what we want at this point. It's like all of the entertainment, the showboat. Like, I love Clem Portis and the coach Janky Spanky and all that stuff, but like, there's too much. Like, it seems there's a lot of self, and we got to play as one. Quote Drumline: one band, one sound.
Okay, so our team is not in the playoffs right now, but we have 4 teams left in the playoffs: Bengals, Chiefs, 49ers, Rams. Thoughts on the NFL Conference Championship round matchups tomorrow? And I mean, do you think that for the Bengals Chiefs matchup, we can start with that one. Do you think Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow will have the better performance? And of course, who do you eventually think will come out on top between those two teams?
Yeah, my original AFC prediction was going to be the Bengals and the Bills, just because I felt the Bills were kind of like the Phoenix Suns of last year, and I felt the Bengals are kind of like the Atlanta Hawks. And so that kind of gives a spoiler into, I guess, my prediction for this game, but I think Kansas City kind of gets the win. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be challenging, but like, I mean, we saw against that Bills Chiefs game, and to see that last drive, this particular, is that the Chiefs had like a 20-yard pass to Tyreek Hill, and then another pass to Travis Kelce. Your three main guys, Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, got you into position to win that game at the end of it. So like, and then to see the speed on Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce just gets open. Like Pat Mahomes is just Pat Mahomes. Like Cincinnati is amazing. I had a lot of those guys on my fantasy team: Joe Mixon, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. They're amazing. I do think they're a year early. And it's hard because, like, you never know if you're going to be back early again. But I do think I think they have foundation. I think Joe Burrow specifically, in that Raiders game, there was a pass to, I think it was in the second quarter of that game, to CJ. What's the tight end's name?
Uzama?
Uzama, yeah.
Yeah.
Uzama or something like that. He threw a
Yeah.
seam route like 25 yards down on a laser in between like two defenders. And I was just like, wow, like that was impressive. And then I think right after the camera got a close shot on Joe Burrow coming down the field, and you just like saw his face, and it was just like, oh, this looks like you got like that Joe Burrow swagger. Like you got that. Like I see the championship in his walk. Like I see the LSU championship like type of thing. So like it made me believe. That's why I predicted. Like I was like, hey, that game in Tennessee, Cincinnati. I don't know how far it is, but Cincinnati ain't far from Nashville. I'm projecting that Bengal fans could travel well, and Nashville's a rocking place. And I predict that they were gonna upset them, and sure enough, they did that. And so I think it's an inspiring story, but you can't take 9 sacks.
Yeah.
You can't take 9 sacks. I'm sorry. And like, you can't, I questioned the Jamar Chase pick at the draft just because I'm like, yeah, that's a college connection. That's college historic records, but it's college.
Yeah.
And you need to protect your guy, but they've clearly showed that we'll figure that out next year. The same way the Chiefs had to fix up their offensive line, and that's why they only gave up 2 sacks last week. This is the reason why I think Pat Mahomes is going to be a little bit better protected. Tyreek Hill is going to have a little bit more time to find some open seams, and Travis Kelce is just going to do Travis Kelce things.
Yeah.
The defense is not even like, who cares about the Kansas City defense?
Yeah.
Who cares?
No, I agree with you, Sami, with all your points there. I think Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, while they put up an incredible fight thus far in the regular season and now in the playoffs, I think Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, man, I don't think I've ever seen anyone faster than Tyreek Hill. Maybe you want to put up CJ2K, who I know you were a huge fan of growing up, but I don't know, man. Tyreek Hill's speed is he's different, bro. He's different, and
that burn on the touchdown. I was like, geez, I'm so glad they didn't give him a penalty on the deuces.
yeah.
I'm glad everybody thought that. It's like, you better not give him a penalty on that.
But that was a great play, and yeah, I just think the Chiefs will be a little bit too much for the Bengals to handle, and I'll have them in the Super Bowl. And my preseason prediction was actually Chiefs-Packers. Of course, Packers are not making it. Aaron Rodgers choked. I'm going to say it, even though I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan. But we got the 49ers, Rams, NFC. What are your thoughts there? Jimmy G versus our guy, I'll say, Matt Stafford. What are your thoughts on that matchup?
Can the 49ers win this? Yeah. Is it going to be a Jimmy G? No. I question coming into the season if Kyle Shanahan's a good coach. I still have questions. Like, I'll give him more props than I have early in their season. But, like, I think maybe they fall in line with the same problems that the Rams did with the Goff and Stafford. It's like, you have an offense where I think one issues with San Francisco is, like, you're a great run team, but, like, I think you run the ball too much, that you don't pass enough. I don't know. Like, it's a passing league, and you got to pass, and they don't pass enough. I feel like it's more of a complementary to their offense rather than, like, an actual thing that they, like, leverage. And it could be just because Jimmy G there's opportunities that are just not being taken. And again, you go back to the Super Bowl, you see the miss to Emmanuel Sanders, and almost the same pass that Stafford threw. Earlier this postseason against the Cowboys, he missed the crossing route to Brandon Ayuk, wide open. And then later in that game, I was watching it on the Amazon Prime stream with Bucky Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah, and they ran a poll asking, like, hey, like, when do you think the next, do you think the Cowboys can win this game if the 49ers don't commit a turnover? And they were like, nope, it's going to happen. And sure enough, like, Jimmy G threw a turnover because, like, it's all expected. Like, Jimmy G does the expected. It almost feels Kirk Cousins-esque. Like, I knew Kirk Cousins was going to do something to just cost us the game in clutch moments. Like, and that's where I'm like, they have a good team on defense. They have a lot of talent, and Debo Samuels and George
George
Kittle.
Kittle. They got.
That
Don't
they can.
forget Trent Williams on the offensive line. I mean,
Yeah,
PFF's
yeah,
top
yeah.
ranked player.
He's getting his All Pro recognitions, even though he's pretty much playing the same type of
Thank you.
tackle since he was in Washington. So goes to popularity contest, but give man his All Pros. But yeah, I mean, I think if they win this game, it's going to be in spite of Jimmy, and screw Jeff Garcia because Mina Kimes is right. But yeah, it's Jimmy G's not winning this game. Like, it's going to be the entire team, and it's going to be if Cisco does win it, it's going to be like a slugfest, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Rams are going to blow them out. I think it's going to be a blowout.
Okay. I mean, I got the Rams winning as well. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be close because, I think Stafford, even though I do like him, I think he is kind of prone to turn over the ball. Maybe, maybe not at the very end of games like Kirk Cousins, but at some point during the game, I keep the 49ers in it. But I agree with you. If 49ers win, it's not going to be because of Jimmy G. Sami, there were people on Twitter this week that were saying, that were literally, and they were straight face. They were saying, Jimmy G is a winner. I want him on my team.
I mean, there could be an argument to the fact that, like, you look at his winning, his record. Sure, he's winning. He's on the Patriots. Like, he's on the 49ers, but still, like, you gotta give him a little bit of credit just for the fact that, like, someone's got to throw the ball. Like, he could be back there throwing picks. Like, do you think they'd be in the position they are if they started Trey Lance?
I think so. That might be blasphemous for some people, but I think so. Not just because he's my birth twin, actually, Sami. I don't know if you know that. Same day, same year. But no, I think so. I mean, they were playing fine with Trey Lance getting that spot start early in the season. Do you think that they would be much worse with Trey Lance starting right now over Jimmy G?
As a rookie, yeah. I think it's not saying much, but it's just saying that at least Jimmy gives you something that, like, we don't have. Like, it's somewhat of, like, if Jimmy was on the 40 on Washington, which I don't want, putting that out there. I don't want Jimmy G on there, but, like, based off what we have, that's an upgrade. Not by much, it's an upgrade. Just because, like, you get a little bit of consistency. A little, it might be a fraction, but you get a little bit more consistency. But it's not much. It's not going to put us over into the Super Bowl contenders or anything like that. I'm just saying, as far as, like, you're ranking quarterbacks, like, he's 16 to 21.
Yeah.
Like, he's a starter. He's just not a starter like that. You want to go into, like, thinking like he might have a Joe Flacco postseason, but, like, he ain't ever going to be, like, considered perennial top 10.
Yeah. I'll just say this, like, just to finish off this topic. I think they're both, if Trey Lance is starting, Jimmy G, doesn't matter. They're both going to throw picks, or they're both going to turn over the ball. But I think the difference for me is that Trey Lance can run. He has a lot more mobility, and I think that would benefit the 49ers, especially because they are such a rush-heavy offense. But at the end of the day, the coaching staff, they're starting Jimmy G. They're rolling with Jimmy G. But regardless, I think we both think the Rams are going to win. So I think we can finish off that topic here. But
Cooper Kupp somehow just gets open.
Very, very true. I mean, you can't forget about OBJ as well. He's provided them a spark since he's come over from the Browns. I mean, that defense.
Aaron Donald, yeah.
Aaron Donald, man. But okay, so let's move off of NFL talk. Wizards talk. Very quickly. What are your thoughts on the Wizards' struggles as of late, especially the inexplicable 35-point meltdown against the Clippers? Luke Kennard, 4-point play at the very end of the game. And I think it's finally time to blow the team up.
Yeah, I had that Wizards game on. And it started nice, It's like, oh yeah, you're up by 30 some odd points, but basketball is a game of flows. You just don't expect it to really blow a 30-point lead. Like really, like regardless of the fact if like the league comes back and they say that like, oh, that wasn't supposed to be a shooting foul, blah blah blah. It doesn't matter. You gave up a 30 some odd point lead. Like that's ridiculous. And so I felt like this before that game. I think maybe early on that point, maybe I was trying to talk myself out of it, but no, like you got to have to blow this team up. And I think it goes back to what Tommy Shepard said at the end of last season is that like, hey, like we were a 7th place team, we're playing whatever. And it's like, that's not where we want to be. We got to get better. And so this is not where we want to be. And so we got to get better. And so you had the last 2 years, you missed the play-in the bubble. You had an opportunity. You missed that. Last year, you played in as a play-in team, got in. Now you're on the fringe at 10 seed, possibly out. Who knows, wherever. Yeah, I think you got to blow it up. I think everyone should be on the board. I saw some reports saying that everyone is on the board except Beal, or possibly Beal hasn't been mentioned. I think everyone's supposed to be on the board. It was funny with Beal prior to last season. I was like, why trade Beal? Like if he wants to be here, let's build around and stuff like that. I think with the moves that came into place, it's like, all right, Beal, this is finally your team. You don't have to worry about John Wall being on it. Go out and kind of like, let's see if we can actually like build around this team, right? And to start the season, it started off well. You see a lot of people like Kuzma come in who, like, as a Laker fan as well, I was like, this dude was just fascinated by being a Laker and didn't really have the passion anymore. And he's clearly showing me, proving me wrong. And Montrezl Harrell's having a good season. They started off strong. Obviously, COVID plays a part into it, but the biggest thing that's sticking out to me this season is just Beal. And Beal has progressed throughout his career as a Wizard. I will give him that much credit. And so definitely an all-star, an all-pro worthy, all NBA worthy player conversation member. It just doesn't get into that next level. And now we're at that point where it's like, do you pay someone like Bradley Beal $248 million? And it's not like an indication on like, is he a good person or a bad person, whatever. It's more of like, bro, like I can't, especially on this season, you're shooting. At no point you've played well this entire season. Like at no point when we were doing well, it was like, oh, wait till Bradley Beal gets better, and then this team will be even better. It's never happened. Yeah. And so like, you got to be at this point. It's like, I think to my point about the quarterbacks, I think the same kind of approach applies in the NBA. And I think you just kind of have to go, I think with certain teams in certain markets like the Lakers and the Celtics, you can play let me attract a free agent here and, big name Kevin Durant and LeBron James. The Wizards are not like that. I don't know why.
KD, hometown kid, doesn't want to play for his.
I mean, I can understand in some cases, but like as far as like getting players to come to DC, like it shouldn't be hard to convince people to come to DC. It's not a bad area. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like there's something with this organization that has a problem with just enticing players to come to this franchise, that you're not in that market of bringing players of KD's caliber to this team. So what your best bet is, which you've already kind of started, is you have a team full of tradable contracts and Kuzma, KCP, Rui, Denny, Kispert, whatnot. Bertans is probably like the only one. What you got to do is you just got to blow it up and just kind of get as many draft capital. I'm not saying 76ers tank seasons for 4 years and just try to aim for the number 1 pick, but like there's a way to kind of still kind of show us something that you're actually trying to move and try to make plays and like actually get better rather than trying to be stagnant. I'm at this point, I'm almost down to be like, just trade Bradley Beal for Ben Simmons. I don't know how Ben Simmons is going to fit into this team, but like just get some type of value out of it. And then do the same thing. If Ben Simmons doesn't want to be here, use him up for the 2-3 years and then trade him out and try to get something else. But at this point, this franchise's best bet is to get as many draft picks and try to find you a Ja, try to find you a Giannis, and hope they change your franchise. But that's the only Wizards option at this point.
Yeah, and to your point of how Bradley Beal, I mean, he deserves a lot of blame this season. I think it's likely that he's not even going to be an All-Star this year,
He
and
shouldn't.
including reserves. So
He shouldn't.
tell us all you need to know. Nathan, my boy, Brady's back. So I just checked Twitter while Sami was talking, and from NFL Network, this is from Ian Rappaport. Tom Brady does intend to retire. For several people close to him, the pushback appears to be based on timing rather than his eventual decision. So I think that's what we were talking about at the beginning, sort of expecting Brady to eventually retire, whether it's tonight or this week, next week, soon. But
maybe we might have a Favre 2.0.
I mean, maybe.
He's all doing this to go to 49ers. Calling it.
Okay. I mean, it's on tape now. So
I think the 49ers,
right.
They're going after Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. Probably Aaron Rodgers, though.
Okay. Both Cali kids. Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of Cali, I'm super intrigued to get your thoughts on this. Lakers talk. So you said obviously you're a Lakers fan. For the people out there who don't know. Thoughts on AD coming back to the Lakers? I think that's enough to bring them back into title contention. And this second question, I'm even more intrigued on. Do you think LeBron James has a legitimate case of being MVP this year with the stats he's putting up? 29.1 points per game, second best in NBA, 7.7 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 27.39 player efficiency rating, ranking 4th in the league. Thoughts on all that, Lakers guy?
Yeah, I'll start with the LeBron one just because I think my thoughts on that will be a little short. And it's not any disrespect on LeBron this season. Again, I'm not the biggest LeBron fan, but I have grown a tremendous amount of respect over him for the last couple of years. But no, no, like their standings and the Lakers are what 10. They lost again.
But
like
what about the Steph Curry MVP talk last year? When the Warriors were like 8th or 9th in the Western Conference, there was a lot of talk about Steph Curry winning MVP. Not for me.
Yeah, and I say no.
Okay.
No. My MVPs at this moment right now is definitely Jaws definitely in contention. I'm blanking on a name right now. I'm so sorry. We've been talking for so long.
It's all good. Embiid?
Embiid is definitely up there. Embiid's one of my favorite guys. My number one guy is Steph, actually, this year. I don't know why I was blanking. I was just, yeah.
Steph?
Steph is my MVP this year. Just because, look, they came back he came back like late in the season last year, right? And was dropping bombs and got Golden State until where they were, right? Cool. The fact that like they're at where they're at with their record, and I don't care within the last couple of weeks, like they like lost a couple games, whatever. It's like, no, you're still like playing ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like you're playing at a level where like, I'm saying the team as a team wise, you're playing at a level where like this is still continuing. This is still a dynasty that is continuing. And the core foundation is still Steph, Clay, and Draymond. And this was before Steph got there and Draymond got hurt. And they were still first, and like Phoenix and Golden State were first and second on the West by lead. And so, like, I got to give credit to Golden State and Steph Curry. My dark horse MVP, and I was saying it last year, and I'll say it again, Chris Paul, MVP. CP3, MVP.
Okay. A lot of people last year, even this year, you could say, he doesn't put up the greatest of stats, but like he is the definition of a player that you gotta watch him play the game. It's all eyeball test, in my opinion, with CP3.
And my definition for MVP is like the most valuable player. So it's not only just stats. Like again, Steph had those stats, but Golden State was at 9 or an 8 seed, whatever they were at the end of the last season. And sure, the team itself was bad, but again, I think when you look at what CP3 did last year with that team, like Phoenix had a lot of that same players without him. And then he comes in there and catapults them to an NBA Finals. And then again, to not fall back, but to again be up there. I think they're probably the number 1 seed right now in the West.
I think so.
So like impressive. And I think it goes to show you that like he doesn't need to be dropping 30. He could be doing exactly what he's doing. And if you take him off that team, are they the number 1 seed in the West? I don't know. So CP3 MVP. He's not going to get it, but CP3 MVP.
Okay. I mean, I would put Giannis, Embiid, even Jokic over Steph. I'm sorry, Steph. The first part of the season, I would agree with you. But I think it's over the last month or the last 3 weeks ish. His shooting percentages have gone down a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
He's not shooting the ball too well over the last couple of weeks. And although the Warriors are where they're at largely because of him, I think you could also attribute that to the all-star starter alongside him and Andrew Wiggins as well.
Okay.
I know. I'm just saying, like, if we're gonna play that game, like, if we're gonna consider him or the NBA is gonna consider him a legit all-star, then I guess you could put that into like the argument conversation, I guess. But Joel Embiid, I mean, Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons obviously has been out the entire season. I would
Joel
say
Embiid's definitely up there. It's like I said, those are probably like outside of KD because he's obviously hurt right now.
Yeah,
it's Steph for me. It's Steph, Ja, Embiid, and what was the fourth one that I said?
Chris Paul.
Chris Paul.
But I do think, you might disagree with me, but I think that LeBron can find his way back into the MVP, like maybe top 2, top 3, like contenders, especially with Anthony Davis coming back. But, as a Lakers fan, Anthony Davis,
you got to do it. You got to get it as a 6 if LeBron is going to get an MVP.
Okay, that's possible if Anthony Davis stays healthy, which never happens. But if he does, magically.
Yeah, Anthony Davis. Okay. Cool. Like he's definitely a talent. I've just always been underwhelmed. And I think a lot of that is just my Laker bias of just like the great big men that we've had, that there's just certain expectations. Dwight Howard, you had kind of like the same kind of expectations, is that like you could be great in Orlando and do all that stuff, but once you come to the Lakers, you got Kareem in your shadows, you got Shaq in your shadows. Like there's expectations, and it's just never met with that. And I'm just leaving wanting more with Anthony Davis. One of my friends did bring up a good point though, that like some of the blame shouldn't be laid on Anthony Davis, but the New Orleans Pelicans, just for the fact that their medical staff and how they double dip, and they both the training staff takes care of both the Saints and the Pelicans, and obviously the Saints take greater priority. And so with Zion and Anthony Davis with their injuries, it's like, okay, Pelicans have to take some accountability for that, but you are NBA players at the end of the day. It's just like I'm just like he could be better. I'm just left wanting more. That's kind of where I'm at with him. It's kind of like Karl Anthony Towns. It's like you're great, but you could just be so much more better. Yeah. Bradley Beal, you could be so much more better.
Yeah, and they just aren't.
So like expectations from the Lakers, I don't have any. I'm actually kind of like, again, maybe it's part of like me not being big of a LeBron fan, but I could kind of understand like why like, the people dislike the Lakers or cheer against the Lakers. Cause it's like, hey, like you built all this team with 35-year-old and plus players. Like, what did you expect?
Like, yeah. Well, you expected the 28-year-old guy, the guy that's in his prime, to to play up to.
I mean, if we want to compare this to the 2004 Lakers with the, Gary Payton, Karl Malone, Shaq, like I asked this to my friends. Like, obviously, there's not a 1-to-1 as far as position, but like, who's the Kobe in that situation? Like, if LeBron is Shaq in this situation, and Carmelo is Karl Malone, and Russ is Gary P.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis, you're supposed to be the Kobe here. So that's where I'm like, it's unfair, but it's part of the game.
Yeah. Abdullah, the co-host who was on before you, so we talked about this on Thanksgiving with one of our younger cousins, but he's on the whole LeGoat train and stuff, and he just popped up in the chat and said LeGoat needs help. But if he was the GOAT, I feel like he wouldn't need help. But that's another story for another day. I will say this. I still can't believe Anthony Davis was named a top 75 player of all time over a guy like Klay Thompson or even a Dwight Howard. Like I mean, you talked about like he's always winning. He always leaves more on the plate or more on the table, and he's always injured. Like the best ability is availability, right? Like we all know that saying, and like Anthony Davis can't stay healthy. So I know he won the championship in LA, but I feel like that's not enough to make him a top 75 player over Klay Thompson, one of the best shooters of all time, 3-time champ. Even under Dwight Howard, who when I was younger was tearing up the league on the Magic, like made it to the finals over LeBron, sadly, early Cavs days. Like, I mean, do you have thoughts on that before we head out?
I mean, the 75 is a 75. I mean, like, it wasn't really a 75. It's more of like we added 25. So it's like, all right, cool. And it's of this generation. Is Anthony Davis part of that extra 25? I don't think so. Like, it's early. Maybe you catch me at the 100. But, like, at 75, I think time would tell.
Yeah.
But didn't they put, like, some other kind of, like, sleepers on there? Like, Luka, was he on there? I thought they had, or maybe I heard, like, I guess some of the people that voted for it, they, like, put in some of the younger talent, like Luka and whatnot, on their ballots, just to kind of, like, just to future-proof it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could see that, but no, my biggest issue with the 75 is like, yo, NBA, you're not gonna put numbers on them.
Yeah,
you're not gonna put numbers on them. You don't want to hurt people. You don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what it is. It's politics. I mean, they didn't even want to They didn't want to like record, stream, whatever you want to call it, the NBA draft like selection thing, like that, like the draft
they
selection
named the starters, right? But like,
for a couple of years, they didn't want to do
like a draft.
They didn't want to do the draft. Like they didn't want to televise it for a couple of years because politics. Like they didn't want to, they didn't want players to be offended and stuff. As if like being an all-star, like you're still an all-star regardless. But like it took them time to even get that televised. Is my point here. Like so, I feel like top 75 list of all time might. They were trying to avoid drama, I guess. Abdul
hopefully 25 years later, I guess now 24 years later, we'll get that 100 list and we'll finally get it in some type of order. You gotta give it to us in order. The NFL gives it to us in order every year.
Yeah.
Like, come on now.
Yeah. Abdul, he's still. I don't know if we want to get into this conversation, Savi. I mean. Like I feel like we always talk about this, but Abdullah, he's still spamming. The GOAT needs help. MJ didn't have Pippen or Rodman. Cavs no, they don't. They don't need LeBron right now. Stop it. They don't need LeBron right now. We talk about this.
The thing that frustrates me as a Lakers fan was that when LeBron came to the Lakers, I was hoping, I'm like, okay, you obviously Lakers, you build, you have to live up to expectations. Anybody come to the Lakers, you have to live up to expectations. Mm-hmm. We had Lonzo, Julius Randle, Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, all of these people, Alex Caruso. My hope was that, like, hey, sure, I get the idea is like to win multiple championships, but I also want it as a Lakers fan to be left with the foundation that we can build upon and have for like 10 years, right? Like I want that Golden State as a Lakers fan. And after 1 year, it was just slowly blown apart. It's like now you look at like Kuzma is gone, you look at Ingram's gone, Lonzo's gone, and they're all good players. Why you say LeGoat needs help? Like obviously they weren't ready, maybe, but like if he's supposed to be the greatest of all time and he's supposed to make his teammates better, he ain't making better.
I mean, I guess the counter on that though, I mean.
The counter
he made them better enough to get to that, championship, to win that championship in the bubble. I don't think you can discredit
the argument I get from my friend is that would you not make the trade for Anthony Davis and get that championship? I'm like, yeah, okay, we got the championship, but I'm like, now we made another trade for Russ because it's just the same idea. It's just like when LeBron went to Miami, I had to go get, Dwayne Wade was already there. Then we bring in Chris Bosh. We go to Cleveland, I got to bring in Kevin Love and, I got to bring in all this talent. And it's like, these are already pre-made guys. Like, so you saying you make your talent around you better when you got pre-made guys around you. Then I get it. You at a different point in your career, and at this point, you're a mercenary. You're trying to win championships. You're not in the game of giving a foundation, like giving a team the foundation to kind of build upon once you leave, so they can win 5 championships after you leave. You want to win those championships now. So I get it. It's just, that's not how the Lakers also run themselves as a franchise. Like next year, they can blow this whole thing up and have a totally different roster. So, like I said, the Lakers and the Wizards are totally 2 different buckets of how franchises run. So it is what it is. It's just, you look at it, it's just like you need help, but you kind of had help. You just needed a little bit of patience.
Yeah. I'll just say this: LeBron, polarizing figure. Even amongst our like conversations growing up, definitely a polarizing figure. But I think that this just tells you how polarizing he is. So Nathan, another one of my friends, so he has this take, and his brother is a LeBron lover, like even more than like kind of like along the lines of Abdullah, like the GOAT. Like so, like between brothers, you see that dynamic. But Abdullah, oh my gosh. Okay, now the comments are coming in.
I mean, LeBron washed. I mean, again, I'm not. You know
points.
me. I'm not a LeBron fan at all. But like, I gotta give him the dude his props. Like, you're at the Brady type of point at this point where it's like, all right, you just doing this for so long, and what is he averaging? Like 30 and some odd points. It's like
29.1
at 37. I made this point to my friends. I was like, LeBron is 37, and just by the fact that he keeps his body in amazing shape. His body physically is probably a 40-year-old when it should be probably a 42 or 43-year-old. But he plays like he's 34, 32. Like, it's wild to kind of think about that.
Yeah.
That, like, as a 37-year-old, like, literally, he has probably a body with all the injuries, much more, years kind of put onto it. But he's kept himself in such great shape that he can play the age of, like, the equivalent of what a 32-year-old be playing right now.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I'm not even a LeBron fan. You've seen my growth in this point of conversation.
Yes.
So like,
yeah,
you got to give him his props. Even though I'll still hold on to him, like all this, like him going to NBA championship finals and whatnot. You lost,
Tommy.
Oh, you lost.
See, this is what I mean, though. I mean, taking that 2007 Cavs team to a finals, taking that 2018 Cavs team. I mean, especially the 2018. I watched that entire run, Tommy. Man, I've never in my. I mean, I'm youngish, right? Like I haven't seen too much basketball. I'll give you that. But that was the greatest thing. Well, the second greatest thing. The 2016 championship was the greatest thing. We talk about this on Thanksgiving. Greatest thing I've ever seen any NBA player do. I know you probably say, oh, they were down 3-1, right? Would you probably have that take? I don't want to speak for you, but like, do you have thoughts on that accomplishment?
It's definitely impressive. It's definitely impressive. Like, I'm not going to take away from that. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely an all-timer. And like the storyline behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you lost more than you won.
Yes. That's why I don't have him at number 1. But I have him in my top 5. Him on my Mount Rushmore.
Okay, you could say that a little with more confidence, please.
No,
I'm on my Mount Rushmore. You said that with a little hesitation.
I said this. No. Okay, there's no hesitation.
And there's 4 guys on Mount Rushmore. So is he in your top 4? Okay.
Yes, he's my top 4. So we talked about this again on Thanksgiving. Stephen A's top 4 list. I'm not just saying this because he's Stephen A. Smith. I think it's perfect. I think it's MJ, LeBron. I think he had Kareem at 3, and 4 was Bill Russell. It was Bill Russell or Magic, and then 5 was the other one of those 2. And I that's my top 5 pretty much. So, I mean,
all right.
But Kobe's at 6 though. If not 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get into it.
At least not number 1 though. At least LeBron's not number 1 on my list, unlike Mr. Abdullah here. Abdullah, okay, we're gonna end it on this. MJ didn't play that Warriors team because MJ was on the Warriors team. Like he was the Bulls of the 90s were the Warriors. So Like he was Steph, he was Clay, like he was all that. So again, I don't think LeBron's number one. He's not the GOAT. I'm not Shannon Sharp here. I'm not Sharp, but I give him his props. And I see the progression in your takes on LeBron as well, and I appreciate that.
Hey, I got growth.
But yes. But with that being said, I don't want to keep you on Sami for too much longer. It is Saturday evening. So thank you so much, bro, for joining. Great
Thank you for having me.
conversation. Great insight on everything, and I especially enjoyed the Lakers talk at the end. And yeah, with that being said, do you want to plug anything before I sign off?
Yeah, nothing much to plug. I mean, got some stuff working on in the background, coming soon. So when I got that ready, people will find out. You can kind of connect with him as well. So yeah,
Sure.
yeah, I'm glad to be part of here, and yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back next time if you want to have me.
For sure. And Nathan's agreeing with you. You lost. But with that being said, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the DMB Sports Zone channel, where we like to post fire content like this as much as possible. Also, go follow our Twitter page at DMB Sports Zone and our Instagram page, all lowercase DMB Sports Zone, and our TikTok that's run by Abdullah, the GOAT fan, DMB Sports Zone as well. But thank you guys so much for watching. It was great. Abdullah, Nathan, Maro Garrett, 5 for Old DC, Dave and DC, Artie at the beginning, Tim and Jared Sports Talk, the Hawk TV. Thank you guys, Tim Sports Talk as well. Thank you guys so much for joining. It was a fun one. And yeah, see you on the next one. Peace.